Okay, so. Senator Corona said something today that I thought, he sort of said before, but he was saying the heat of the moment and really got to the heart of one of the issues within the context of the legislature and the political reality. And he said, this industry, and I'm quoting him, needs some greater degree of regulation. And if we don't do it this time, this session, you won't be able to regulate this industry, speaking to the senators. You won't be able to regulate this industry 2 years from now. This industry will be so much wealthier, so much more politically powerful, that you won't be able to say no and you won't be able to draw the line. And Representative Villarreal, do you agree with that statement? It's almost a call to do something, even if it's far from what the advocates, what anyone may want.
Well, I've heard the senator make that statement before, and I don't know if I guess there's some truth to that, and initially that maybe there was some truth to that. I do believe, though, as Ann said, sometimes if the proposal is so weak, you just got to say, no, I'm not going to put my name on that. I don't need to desperately pass a bill. I'd rather, keep this weak city ordinances or ineffective, they're strong on paper, in place. Even if there was some ounce of truth to that, I think the power dynamics have shifted incredibly over the last week with Steve and Amber in Boston taking an interest in
Tell them who that's
policy discussion. So Steve and Amber Boston, Steve is a trial attorney who's been very successful in the state and is actively engaged in campaigns. I think he donated, I think the number is around $4 million maybe the last cycle or the last 2 cycles, just he himself, in helping candidates run for office. And he and Amber have taken an interest in this issue and have actively engaged in negotiating for stronger provisions in the proposed legislation in the Senate and in the House. And that really has changed the dynamics. And so, I was explaining to Stephen first, thanking him for caring enough to get involved. On this issue, we've been negotiating with the industry, and tell me what you think. It feels like, we're negotiating, the playing field of negotiations is like this, right? and we've just sort of come to accept the unevenness of the negotiating table slanted towards them. Everything rolls down towards them. Now that Stephen and Amber have gotten involved, it feels like the table is now level, and proposals that were floated earlier, like a database tracking these loans, now seems to be more acceptable, along with a number of other ideas. And so I think that advocates for consumer protections now have some wind in our sails, because now we have a combination of votes represented by the Baptists, all their churches and their members, the Catholics, AARP, all of our progressive churches throughout the state, and we have somebody who's willing to apply their financial resources to getting behind campaigns. And that combination is explosive. And the other side does not have a membership base. They only have money. They do not have a broad group of constituents to rally behind them. And so I actually think we're in a much stronger position, and I'm hoping that we can apply that today. But you know what? If we don't, well, the way to get better policy is to win some elections.
I know a lot of folks are working on alternatives to payday loans, because again, we get back to this issue of, and the industry uses this all the time as a talking point. By the way, we invited, I think, 3 different members of the payday loan industry, the head of the Consumer Service Association of Texas, and then 2 executives, and we weren't able to get anybody tonight. So I will try to fairly represent one of the arguments they make, which is that you know, if you overregulate, you are meddling with a clear and obvious market demand, and you're actually going to harm the consumer, regardless of how great your intentions are. And so I know there are efforts to come up with alternatives to the traditional payday loan. And there are even some for-profit businesses, I think, that are out there that are trying to make this work. Does anybody want to pick up on that theme and talk about some of the things that we tried?
Of course I will. We've got a group in San Antonio. I wasn't in on the initial meeting of it. It's called Together for the City. It's a group of, it started out as a group of downtown churches that were meeting with city and civic leaders to see how they could cooperate together on items of mutual interest and concern. And one of the initial meetings, Diego Bernal, the city councilman in San Antonio, and the driving force behind the city ordinances that San Antonio passed with regard to this, he was at that meeting. In his own words, he hijacked that meeting to talk about the payday industry. And the group was rather diverse. They kind of got behind that and thought that was something that they wanted to kind of address themselves, and perhaps by creating some kind of alternative lending model that could compete in the marketplace. It was as they began to do that they found me and discovered that I had been involved in this in the last legislative session, so I got drawn into it. But there is a work underway to partner. It's basically taking a model out of Pittsburgh that has been operating for the past 5, almost 6 years now, where a group partnered with a local community credit union to provide, kind of be their front door, to provide small dollar loans at relatively low interest and fees. In fact, if you pay it back within the first 13 days, it's interest-free. It is kind of their model. But with that, as you pay that back, it's kind of a membership thing, that you not only pay back the loan, but some of the fees that you were paying to that group end up going into the credit union as a savings for the customer as well. So by the end of their time paying off the loan, they have not only paid off the loan, but they have a small savings set aside as well that they are then able to access. And so we're attempting to replicate that model. There's a few differences between Pennsylvania and the state of Texas in terms of some of the regulations there that have created some fun for us. But we're in discussion with several credit unions in the San Antonio area about partnerships and making that happen. There's another alternative that is gaining some traction in the San Antonio area. The San Antonio Area Foundation actually has kind of gotten behind this one. And it's an employer-based model. Basically, it allows the employers to provide small dollar loans to their employees, so it kind of keeps the employees happy, keeps them stable, financially stable, and employable, and kind of helps for them as well. Probably the difference between the two different models. The Pittsburgh model, we are pairing that with some education as well. We discovered that a lot of the folks who fall into these kinds of traps just need basic financial education and some accountability. And once they have that, they're able to kind of begin to accumulate wealth for themselves. The employer-based model doesn't really include the education aspect of it. But those are 2 that I know of in San Antonio area. So.
Okay. We're running out of time, so I want to get to questions from folks before we have to get out of here. Anybody want to?